Hello there and welcome back to The Closet Historian and back to a style of video I haven't done in a very long time. Yes, that's right, I'm going to take you out antiquing with me and thrifting, but more antiquing because there are not that many thrift stores around here, weirdly enough. But anyhow, seeing as I'm still getting used to antiquing out here in my new neck of the woods, I've lived here a little over a year now, but I certainly have not gotten to know upstate New York and the surrounding states very well yet, so I have plenty to discover and I thought I would take you out antique adventuring with me. So let's hop out into the wild and I'll show you what I've found out there. And you join me on my very first jaunt into the state of Massachusetts. Yes, that's right, I had never been to Massachusetts, even though it's only about 40 minutes from where I live. And despite the early spring lack of leaves, I could tell that this drive would be absolutely epic in the fall, so I'm sure I will be back. And I stopped at Berkshire Emporium Antiques in North Adams, Massachusetts. Inside there was plenty to explore, not quite as much as I'm used to with the giant antique malls back in Colorado, but I like antique stores of any size and shape. And I quite like cloisonne, however these were a little bit above my price range. And in a rather crowded section downstairs, I did spot a Japanese textile from a mile away. This is a fukuro, or a formal obi, and it's always nice to see pieces of kimono or obi like this out in the wild. However, seeing as I have plenty, I didn't need to add this particular one to my collection. And luckily, in the next room I found plenty of glassware and piles of china for me to look through. And I did find one bargain stack of porcelain to bring home with me. And coming back upstairs, I did see 3 vases, each of which I would have loved to have brought home with me, but sadly I was trying to be rather budget conscious on this particular day. But the prices on these were extremely reasonable, and I would certainly come back and grab them if I can. But most importantly for this and any shop is that there was a shop cat that I could make friends with upstairs, and I think probably an elder lady. She was super adorable, super friendly, and very soft. And on my way back to New York, I did pop quickly up into Vermont and stopped into a couple of antique shops in Bennington. I really liked this tray, but I didn't find anything in Vermont to bring home with me this day, except for gasoline, because it was cheaper up there for whatever reason. I quite liked this Limoges trinket dish and trinket box set. They'd be really great on a bedside table. And a few days later, I also popped up to Ballston Spa, which is north of the capital region, closer to Saratoga Springs, New York, and stopped into what has become one of my favorite shops here, Waverly Square Antiques, where I spotted these plates, and I really should have picked these up. I think it was 12 dinner plates for only $35, and this isn't a particularly old pattern, but it would be so nice in the fall, and Replacements is charging $33 for just one of these plates, let alone the other 11. Also, I cannot tell you how much I want this Eastlake table, but I have nowhere to put it, and I couldn't even see the price, and we're not in a asking the price on tables sort of a situation right now, so I had to simply admire it and walk away. I also certainly wouldn't have minded picking up these Bristol glass vases. I love these bright turquoise late Victorian pieces. I think they really add a nice punch of color in a dark, moody room, which we all know I tend to go for. I did like this dull green wash basin and pitcher set. I would love to have a wash basin pitcher set sort of thing like this for the dresser of my guest room, but I haven't even begun to decorate that room yet, so I can't even think about it. But I always like the things that they have back in this booth, and they had a lot of painted boxes this day, which were all very pretty, but also made me think maybe I should get into the box painting business, because I also can decorative paint a box. This crystal vase was quite pretty, but again, a little above what I was looking to pay on this day, which also goes for this absolutely glorious carved plant stand, or candle stand, or candelabra stand, more so in this case. I'm assuming this is from the latter half of the 19th century, and it is just gorgeous, but sadly, once again, quite out of reach. I would have loved to take this home, but how would I get it in the car? That was the only impediment. And another booth downstairs at Waverly Square Antiques did have 2 of these birdcage automaton. They are in quite poor condition, honestly. They would need some serious restoration, possibly some new feathers, but wouldn't we all love a tweeting bird automaton? This large green glass urn vase upstairs, however, was calling to me because I have some glassware to set the table with that is in a similar shade of green, so this would be a great centerpiece to pair with those glasses, but I didn't pick it up on this particular day. And while I managed to pick up a few bargain vases, I did have to leave this gorgeous, again, aesthetic movement, hand-colored transferware, and very crazed platter. And this platter was at Stone Soup Antique Gallery, which is a little bit up the road from Ballston Spa. Can you spot them? Both my first and my last find are actually in shot right now. The first being this little silver plate tray. I'm not actually sure if this actually is silver plate, but I picked up this little guy actually when I was dropping off some donations at the Goodwill that is closest to me here in the capital region. I don't get to visit Goodwill very often or go thrifting very often just because they don't tend to be very close to the antique stores, and I'd rather focus on antique stores, which all of course close early at like 5 p.m. So as a night owl, I find that very offensive. Like most people, I don't really want to go out clubbing late or whatever, especially now that I'm in my mid-30s. But I would like it if antique malls and museums stayed open late because that would be much more my speed, but I digress. I assume this is some kind of base metal, and I'm not even positive this is silver plated. There's no marks on it anywhere. It does look kind of like slightly tarnished silver plate. But for $4.99, I thought this little tray would look lovely with various things on it here in my dining area. And I just found a thread on this very nice tablecloth that somehow my cats have managed to not ruin yet. This is a vintage handmade lace tablecloth. This is like a mass-produced but handmade tape lace tablecloth from, I assume, the 1980s, if not maybe a little bit earlier. 80s, 90s from the packaging. I actually picked this up on eBay. But I do think it's providing quite the granny chic backdrop for today, which is fitting because I really do have grand millennial things to show you today, I suppose, including this centerpiece, which was the last thing I picked up at the very last store I went to, which was Stone Soup Antique Gallery, I think it's called, in Ballston Spa, or just outside of Ballston Spa on the way to Saratoga Springs. And this piece is not something I would normally pick up just because these are like Hollywood Regency. They're more mid-century than I usually go for, which is funny. I mean, Hollywood Regency fits in pretty well with the over-opulent kind of Victorian vibe that I am usually going for. But this piece was on super sale. It was marked at only $25 just because some of the hanging crystals that were hanging from the piece down here were missing. But I actually thought to myself immediately I would take all those crystals off because I don't really like that Hollywood Regency look. I would like to use it in a much more classical sort of way. So I just took the rest of the crystals off and got this centerpiece bowl. I mean, it's a very shallow bowl for only $25, and I'm quite enamored with it, especially now that I have layered on some fruit. I don't actually like to eat grapes, but grapes are cheaper than roses and do look quite pretty and, again, very classical, piled here with other fruit that I will eat. So I got these grapes to look at, which may seem very strange, although my mom's coming to visit and she said that she would eat the grapes. So maybe some of the grapes will get eaten after all, but if not, they will wither here in my like Dutch still life inspired centerpiece. Something else I picked up on this adventure were a couple of flower frogs. I think one of these was like $8, another one was like $7.50, so around $8 as well. Sometimes these can get really expensive for whatever reason. I'm not sure that many people are arranging flowers anymore, and usually I'm not either, but I've been trying to find a bowl-shaped like rose vase for here as well, which I didn't find this time, but I did find a couple of frogs and I picked these up for future flower arranging adventures. I would love to have more fresh flowers in my house and do more flower arranging because it is quite fun. However, of course, everything is poisonous to my cats. So figuring out what flowers I can bring into the house that will not poison them and what fillers I can use with those flowers. Of course, I can get roses, which are non-toxic to cats, but all lilies are extremely toxic to cats. Chrysanthemums, which I really like, toxic to cats. Most nice flowers are toxic to cats, which is fine if you have cats that don't eat your flowers. But Xander has proven to eat any live plant I bring into the house. So even when I can keep a plant alive, it gets eaten by him. And as much as I have embraced having faux plants in the house recently, I am quite picky about them, and I am really quite picky about faux flowers. So I don't think I'd like to use faux flowers in like a tablescape or anything like that. So hopefully one day I'll be able to either figure out a non-toxic solution or start growing some non-toxic flowers in my side yard or something like that and have cut flowers that I know will not hurt Xander if he decides to eat them. But as commonplace as these things were, they are just for holding the stems up in a vase. They are kind of hard to find and getting kind of expensive. So when these ones were under $10, I decided to pick them up. And once I finally pulled myself away from the extremely cute and owl-like cat at the front of this shop in North Adams, Massachusetts, I did find a set of plates. I grabbed these plates. These are from K&A Selb Bavaria. This is the Manon pattern, and these were made in Germany, as it states on the back, or Bavaria, whichever. But these are a nice, fine porcelain with a kind of ivory finish, almost a lighter ivory in the center and then a darker ivory around the rim. These are quite simple, but I thought they would go very well with my current tablecloth situation, which is actually a yellow tablecloth with the lace tablecloth on top of it. I kind of like the idea of having different solid color tablecloths to layer underneath the lace tablecloths, but I thought this ivory and green combo would go very well with the yellow. Seeing as it is spring currently and I'm trying to embrace the idea of spring. But I did find a stack of several dinner plates, bread plates. There were 4 saucers, but no teacups. There was a gravy boat, which they actually forgot to include in my bag, so I left it there on accident. Although I don't actually like gravy, so it's not a huge loss to me, and I was more in it for the dinner plates anyhow. And there's actually a small platter with this as well, so I could use that serving piece at least. But I did look this setup on replacements, and while it is listed on there, they have a pattern number for it. They don't have a good picture of it, or any other pieces really don't seem to have come through. And replacements is kind of my go-to source to fill in other pieces. I would love to have the luncheon or salad plates for this set. Obviously, the cups for the saucers. I would love to fill out the rest of this because once I have part of a china set, I kind of just want to collect all the other pieces that I can. However, this one seems to be quite rare, so unfortunately I have picked up something that I don't think I'll be able to complete the set, but I am going back to that shop soon, so maybe I'll be able to find more of this hidden away, because it was rather one of those piles of china randomly everywhere places, so who knows, maybe I'll find the rest of it there. And I did find these glasses in that exact same room. These are Tiffen Franciscan glasses from the mid-century era. I'm not sure if this is the water or the wine glass. I have to measure it. I haven't actually measured these yet. I picked up 6 of these glasses. They don't have the full thick gold rim that you often see on the lip of these glasses. Normally they have a good centimeter thick rim, and these ones have the gold kind of printed along the outside with nothing behind it. So the pattern is transparent. And I unfortunately, again, have been having a hard time finding this exact glass to be able to build out the rest of the set. Usually when I find things out and about, if they're marked, I can then come home, find the rest on eBay. And even if I can't afford to add it to my collection, I can at least bookmark it and know to keep an eye out for it. But once again, I've chosen something that seems to be almost on the rarer side, which is unfortunate, because these are very common glasses. This line of Tiffen Franciscan glasses are extremely common even when you're out and about antiquing, but the transparent band seems to be harder to find. So if you've seen these, let me know. I think the pattern is Valencia, I want to say, is what I thought I saw, but transparent. So if you've ever seen that, or if you happen to own these and are willing to part with them, let me know. But one of the main things I've been looking for recently are actually vases, which is funny because so many people have like plenty, if not too many vases, because you get them for free when you buy flowers so often, or if you've ever been given flowers, they often come in those like cheap glass vases from the flower shop or the grocery store. But I actually don't have any like nice vases for building centerpieces in the center of the dinner table or things like that, because again, I don't get to do enough flower arranging. But I thought if I ever do want to put flowers in the center of my table, I would like a nicer vase to do so. So I picked up this swung glass vase, and unfortunately it was so cloudy at the time that I did not notice there is a chip on this buddy. So that is a major bummer. I paid $20 for this, and I don't think I would have if I had noticed this chunk out of it. But it was so cloudy at the time that I thought, I could get that clean at least, and then it would look a lot better. And I'm still trying to get it clean because we still have a band of cloudiness here at the top. I've tried vinegar, I've tried water, I've tried vinegar and baking soda. I'm not sure exactly what else I can try, but let me know how else can I get the fog out of these old vases, because they look much better once they are sparkling. But swung glass vases like this are actually quite an old style. This one does seem to have the end of it pressed into a mold, especially the mold seems to have like registration marks and everything, but the rest of this is definitely like thrown or blown, I suppose. Not exactly positive how these are made, but they have like little connective tissues down here. It kind of leans to the side. It's definitely a handmade piece, at least for most of it. And this style of vase was actually something you could get at the turn of the century, so I feel like it will be appropriate here in my 1890s house. And the other swung glass or other handmade glass vase I picked up was this one. This one again does seem to have a opalescent situation going on the top. So it has this white opalescent glass kind of basket woven into this. I'm not exactly sure how this kind of glass is blown, but it is very pretty. Once again, I still have some fogginess on the inside of this vase, so I really need to figure that out. This one is, again, slightly wonky, showing that it was handmade. So I think that probably means this is slightly older. I'm not sure exactly when this is from. Both of these swung glass vases could be from the 1960s and 70s, where it seems a lot of them were made as well. But I just know that the style will work for earlier flower arrangements and will still look at home here in my old home. And this second swung glass vase was $18. And finally, I did find a piece of crystal as well. This one is much heavier than the others and is clearly like cut glass as opposed to pressed glass. There's no seams on this buddy. It's actually crystal, and I think you can kind of tell that in the light, or at least I can. So I'm not, again, sure when this one is from. It could be from last year for all I know, but this was only $12, and for a piece of crystal, I think that's not bad. You can't get a piece of crystal for $12 even at Home Goods. Even there, it would be $19 or $24. So I felt like that was a pretty good deal for an actual crystal vase. This one has no chips on it, so it's doing quite well. And I've actually managed to get this one the cleanest out of the three. So she's winning in that category as well. And again, Martha Stewart said if I soaked these with vinegar in them that it would come out. And it mostly has, but like, what else does a girl gotta do? And now we have my very first piece of actual Majolica. How old this is, I couldn't tell you, but it's a very fun little leaf shape with brown and green glazes on it. This looks pretty handmade to me on the back, at least. Maybe they were stamping these out. No idea. No marks on this one, but I would actually love to fill my hutch, which is actually beside the camera right now, my like open Welsh dresser or Irish dresser, whatever these are called. Mine is gargantuan, and I made it myself in this video if you'd like to see how I put together my giant plate rack. But I would love to fill that with green and brown and colorful Majolica one day. And the only way to start a collection is to buy your first piece. So this is my first little piece of leafy Majolica to go on my plate wall behind you. It's not really going to match the black and white spode that I have up there right now, but again, there's only one way to start a Majolica collection, and that's to get the first leaf, and this one was only $14 with no chips on it, so I decided this would be piece number one. And then I thought I might show you a closer look at two other pieces I picked up recently while working on the foyer project and kind of styling that room. I picked up this trinket dish, is what I assume this is. This does seem to have been made in Japan, as the back stamp seems like a Japanese character to me. I'm not quite sure. If any of you read Japanese, you can let me know if this says anything. I just really loved the colors and pattern on this because arsenic green and dark blue are two of the colors I use most in my downstairs of my house. I thought this would fit in any room and would help tie the salon behind me, the more foresty room, into the front room, which is a little bit darker. And these are the kind of colors that are used in other rooms, so I thought it would help to bring them into the foyer as well. And also, it was just really pretty. This was a lot to spend on a trinket dish. I bought this dish for $38, but again, it was super pretty, and I don't think I got anything else that day, so I was ready to splurge a little bit on something. And then lastly, I thought I would show you a close-up of this painting that I showed in the foyer video as well. Currently, it's hanging above my record player in the kind of nook of my foyer, but I would actually love to move it into the landing on the stairwell landing once I've managed to remove some of the wallpaper there. I really like this big, chunky gesso or plaster frame for a start, but the painting in it is a faux Dutch floral painting. Again, this is probably less than 10 years old, this painting itself. I'm not exactly sure who painted this. The name is sort of generic enough that I don't think I could find out, and I wish I could, because honestly, teach me how to paint like this. It doesn't seem, it's like somewhere between actual oil painting and toll painting. There's like a middle ground, and that's where this painting is living. And I like both oil painting, like realistic oil painting, still lifes especially, and toll painting, so I wouldn't mind kind of copying these techniques and doing canvases in this same style. So I wish I knew more about this artist. If you happen to know anything about this, let me know. There's just something about that original painting texture that is hard to replicate, even in those like faux oil painting canvas prints. There's just something about it that's missing, like the glow of the actual paint itself. So I would love to fill the room with more actual oil paintings, not only the foyer room, but all the rooms of my house, honestly. And in order to do so, I think it's probably going to be most cost effective to learn to oil paint. So that's on the to-do list as well, as if I have time for that. I don't, but I kind of want to make time. So let me know if you'd like to see me trying to learn to oil paint, because I really can only do things in life. I can really only pick up hobbies that I can monetize, if you know what I mean. I hope you enjoyed this slightly different video from me today. Let me know if you'd like to see more of my antiquing or thrifting adventures here in New England, if we can call this that. I'm New England adjacent. It's much more just upstate New York, and I can kind of get around this area. So again, if you have any spots to recommend to me in this general zone, feel free to recommend those places below, because I'm always looking to try new places out, and hopefully I'll be making it to Brimfield at least once this year, so stay tuned for that. But thank you as always for watching today, and a huge thank you to my patrons who make my work and all of my videos possible. And as always, I'll be back with more sewing, vintage fashion, costuming, crafting, and decorating real soon, so I'll see you then. Bye!